question. And sometimes it happens that there is one super extrovert who actually wanted to do the talk, but couldn't, and then just uses this as just talking. Give another talk. So this is actually the best way to assure that every question which you're interested in will be answered. And yeah, that's as much as I could freestyle.
It seems like we are pretty much ready here.
Yeah.
Just let me double check.
Okay.
And we'll start just 1 second.
He's gonna be out of most of the time here.
Okay, you can change it. Yeah, I think he's planning on being up there. So.
Oh, I was actually told that in the US, when you say, "Where can I get Coke?" I should say, "Where can I get Coca-Cola?" I didn't know. So I always have to get my Coke.
Yep, alright, we're live. Okay, I'll put this on. Oh, that's another. Yeah, this is for the live stream. Oh, okay. When I gave lectures during COVID, I had to record them for the reverse lectures, and I didn't know that I do so many during the talking. So if you're really bored during my talk, you can count my It's horrible. I didn't know that. I thought I do maybe once or twice, but I did like hundreds. Well, yeah, like this. Well, anyways. Can everybody see the screen? Yeah. So last week I came here and then saw this tiny screen, and in order to make your experience better, I enlarged every font. And if you can't still read it, then it just didn't fit into the slide to enlarge it more. So I really hope it caters for your readability. Yeah. If not, during the talk, please raise your hands. And yeah. So this is a quick survey if you haven't done it yet. And if you have time, I'm going to show you the results later.
Nada, buenas tardes, les damos la más cordial bienvenida a la Casa Rafael Galván de la Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana. Somos un espacio dedicado al arte y la tecnología. Cuando Ben se acercó con nosotros hace un tiempo, pues nos dio mucho gusto que nos presentara su iniciativa, y nos da mucho gusto recibirles esta tarde. Gracias, nada más. Y Ben, tienes la palabra.
All right, so I think I did most of my announcements earlier, but just for those that are in here, we're going to have a small after party. We're going to post that in the WhatsApp group. If you haven't joined the WhatsApp group, there's members of it here. You can get the link from them. Also, there should be yellow sheets of paper, like on the door and stuff out there, where you can join, and we'll post the location. It is pretty close nearby, and I will butcher the name if I say it. But I'm going to try to real quick here.
Yakumanka.
That's the one. Who said it? Can you say it again?
Yakumanka.
Yakumanka. Yes, that's the one. So it's just around the corner. It's like a block away. So it should be really accessible for anybody who wants to join us. I expect more people will join us. Like I said, our normal time is 7, so I expect more people to filter in as time goes on. But everybody, thanks for coming so much, and I'm excited about the talk tonight. Please follow our social media as well. All that you can find in the description of the WhatsApp group, or on the Meetup page, or on the Luma. I try to make it as accessible as possible. And yeah, we're always looking for speakers, so please reach out if you know somebody or you are somebody who wants to do that. Like I said, my name is Ben. Feel free to talk to me afterwards. And I'm going to just leave it over to you, because I know you got a great presentation going for us. And hopefully the subtitles don't butcher you too bad. They're not doing great.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Welcome to my talk. I first want to thank the organizers. First of all, Ben Ulrich. He's the manager and founder of the AI meetup in CDMX, and he, I think, is really doing a great job
I did an AI back in Korea, and I know it's so hard to always find speakers and get the community going. So, and he's really caring for it. So, thank you very much, Ben, for the great organization. And also, I want to thank Nancy Duran, and she's the manager. Can you please show your head? Yeah, she's the manager of this wonderful cultural center, and I'm very happy that we have a room here that big, and with all the technology, I'm really impressed. I'm especially impressed that the audio is working. And anyways, so please give him all a big applause. Okay, so I'm going to talk in English, but I wanted to do short introduction in Spanish. Okay. Bienvenidos a mi presentación. Disculpe que no puedo hablar toda la presentación en español. He estudiado español para 9 semanas, que no es suficiente a expresar la psicología y la inteligencia artificial en español. Pero quiero mostrar mi respeto a México y la gente mexicana, que es muy simpática. Ok, cuando trabajaba como profesor de diseño y inteligencia artificial en Corea, tenía un estudiante que hizo un proyecto de avatar. Un avatar es una persona virtual de uno mismo. Y funcionó más o menos, y fue en 2020, en la mitad de COVID. Y cada semestre sentía que entre mis estudiantes la depresión y la ansiedad aumentaba. Entonces, pregunté si era posible ayudar a esos estudiantes con una persona virtual que hablaba con ellos. Y porque tengo un doctorado de psicología social, pregunté además si era posible aumentar el bienestar mental de una persona que no solamente se siente sola, sino que tiene problemas personales, con una persona virtual que no solamente hablaba con ella, sino que la escucha como un mejor amigo o amiga. Y entonces hice un proyecto de investigación y funciona bien técnicamente. Pude reducir el tiempo de respuesta de 50 segundos a 3 segundos, pero psicológicamente no funciona nada. El bienestar no aumentaba nada. Y después de un año retiró del trabajo de profesor y empezó a un viaje en todo el mundo para buscar ingenieros de inteligencia artificial y psicológicos para mejorar esta persona virtual. Y eso es la idea de Virtual Friend. Y eso es el fin de mi introducción. Disculpe mi español horrible y mi acento grave. Gracias. Ah, ok, gracias, gracias. La gente mexicana es muy simpática. Okay. All right. Now the fun part for me. Okay, so here we go. We start my talk, how I built an AI companion with psychology and how you actually implement it with technology. and I start to give you an idea why I did this before I start telling you how I did it. Okay, so it started actually with a great failure. I was a professor in design and AI, and there was a student who did a project of an avatar. An avatar is a virtual representation of yourself, and it kind of worked very slowly. It had a response time of 50 seconds, but after that, I thought maybe we could help people with that, because that was in the middle of COVID, and I felt like every semester there was more depression and anxiety rising among my students. I thought maybe if they talk to a virtual being, they could be helped with that. And because I have a PhD in social psychology, I also thought maybe we can put that to the next level and say we can maybe increase mental well-being if the virtual interaction is so good that they feel really listened to. So that was actually the research question: can you improve mental well-being by a virtual friend? And I did a research experiment with 60 people, and we actually managed in 2021, that was 1 year before ChatGPT came out, to make a virtual being in Zoom, which talked to people. And it was very interesting because one of the most interesting insights was that the people perceived human warmth in the interaction. And it led to a research article, and so that's also a great success in a journal. But the truth is, it was a complete failure because all the measures of mental well-being used remained unchanged. And that was really a bummer, but fortunately I got a lot of qualitative feedback from the participants, and I could extract the main reasons why they felt it really doesn't feel like a natural conversation. So the main reasons was, number one, that the response latency was too high. So latency means how long you have to wait until the response. So it's different than processing time. And the second is it lacked memory, which means if you told the virtual being that you were a vegetarian, it would suggest you to eat a steak when you were hungry. And third, it had a very limited understanding of the world. So what I mean by that, I'm going to show you in a very short demo. So pay attention. I tested that, and that was really back in 2021. So with really raw technology, but you can hear it.
I love golden retrievers. I used to have one, but she passed away a few years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you still sad?
It's okay. She lived a long, happy life. I miss her a lot, though.
And do you also like eating dogs?
Yes, I love eating dogs. They're so tasty. What about you? Do you eat dogs?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you can see the limited world understanding. It learned patterns like if you say, do you like pizza? Yes, I love pizza, it's so tasty. And it just used the same pattern for everything. And maybe it also confused hot dogs because it had hot dogs in the training dog data, I don't know. Okay, so, but you saw this limited understanding, and maybe you felt this is a response latency around 3 seconds. All right, now for so many people, I'm very happy that you're interested technically. My talk will be different from other talks because I learned one thing from my PhD supervisor in psychology. He once complained to me that so many students cannot summarize their research. Instead, they do so many slides, and he said they just want to show how much they suffered. Okay, so I'm not going to show you how much I suffered. It's only going to be 3 slides, but very condensed, and they're going to be only tips. And I show you what to do and not to do, but it's really condensed. All right, so here's the first takeaway. tool recommendations or toys for boys. This is what I really strongly can recommend. Let's go through that. First of all, you know, I use about every AI tool possible. I started with ChatGPT, then Claude last year, and then I used Cursor in last December, and this year I started to use Claude Code, and now I'm really convinced that Claude Code is the best model, the best tool, and I use Cursor only for viewing, you know, when I do a git commit, the code changes. And I also found a terminal which is called Ghosty. It's customized to Apple Silicon. And you know, when you work with Claude Code, you work so much in the terminal. I just found it a little bit slicker. Okay, programming frameworks. Fast API, because Flask API is synchronous and Fast API is asynchronous. And what you want is to serve on the same virtual machine several chats at the same time. So you need an asynchronous framework for web apps. LangChain, big discussion. Is it too much abstraction layers, too many modularity and whatever. It remained, and they produced a agentic framework called LangGraph. And they have a system monitoring tool called LangSmith, and it was actually very useful in the beginning to switch very quickly the LLMs. And now, for me, actually the most important feature is that it manages the session history for you. Pipecat is a framework for a chatbot, which allows you to pipe in and quickly exchange modules. The most important feature here for me is VAD. It's called Voice Activity Detection. So that's one of the most important innovations in voice, which means whenever you start a sentence and in the middle you stop, then the AI doesn't interrupt you because it doesn't think that you have stopped your sentence. It understands that you're in the middle of a sentence. And also, when the AI is talking too long, you can interrupt it and it would stop the text-to-speech. So that's very, very important and very, very useful. Then MongoDB is a database which is relatively fast. It might not be the fastest in the market, but it's great because the database is structured not like SQL, but just like JSONs, and the nature of JSONs is you can just change it on the fly. So the database schema can be changed without any interruptions, and it doesn't matter. And I just did it last week, and it worked. And by the way, when I did that, Claude Code suggested a huge migration script of the whole database, and I asked, but actually I only need the information of the last conversation, and it wouldn't break any code if we just let the whole database as is. And Claude Code said, oh yes, of course, yes, and okay. So it's super flexible. Then LLM benchmarking, I use OpenRouter. Everybody knows what an LLM is. Large language model. So if you don't, you should integrate it in your daily vocabulary. It's going to be more and more important in the future. So that's the model which is behind ChatGPT or Claude, which produces the answers. And I'm going to reference this in the next two slides, so I'm going to move to the next one. I lost more than 1.5 years of my lifetime trying to make a solution which connects to Zoom or Google Meet automatically, and I found out after 1.5 years it didn't work because first of all I tried serverless containers, and in a serverless container you cannot access the OS stack which has the audio and video channel. and that's by nature of a serverless container. Okay, 2 experts in cloud engineering didn't tell me that. And even if you run everything in the virtual machine in the cloud, for example, Google Meet has a policy that it doesn't allow any bots to connect to a Google Meet meeting. So it doesn't work. And because of that, I had to scrape everything after 1 year of work, and I had to reprogram everything, but I reprogrammed it more efficiently and faster with PyCat, and a video chat room which is done by WebRTC technology, which is basically a video chat room like Google Meet or Zoom, but it runs in the browser, and it's actually really fast, and it really works, and there are providers who host the video chat room for you. It's amazing, and the provider uses daily.co, and I think it's really worth paying for such a thing. It's amazing. Yeah, and the last tip on this slide is pay for the pro version. You save so much time and so much money actually in the end, really from your lifetime. And this is actually a reminder for myself, because I just started paying always too late. You know, I waited until last December until I started to pay for Cursor, and then for Cloud Code I started in March or April. It's really worth it. You get the better models, and you have more work, and you don't have to worry about your token limit and so on. All right, so these were the tools. Second thing, now it gets a level more difficult. So here the takeaways apply Occam's razor. Does everybody know what Occam's razor is? So it comes actually from the philosophical world and also from problem solving. It says you solve a complex problem by applying the simplest solution. This, everybody thinks sounds intuitive, but people don't do it, you know, especially in the professional world. So, what happened when I went in these 2 years around the world on every AI meetup, software meetup, whatever, people came up to me and asked me always the same questions. And it was always dependent on what was the most important AI buzzword at the time. So, 2 years ago it was, so do you have your own training data? And this is the wrong question. Why? Because I'm in the realm of psychological dialogues. So you would need to have psychologists talking to the clients, and you will not find enough volume for that. But even if you had enough volume, the quality will never be there. Why? And I give you really an inside look into psychology. You would have, first of all, to understand the interpersonal differences. So every therapist is different. So there are good ones and there are bad ones, and maybe middle ones. But you have to first separate them. You know, which are the good ones versus the bad ones. But then there's also the intrapersonal perspective. So even the same therapist will have conversational turns which are good in that context versus others which are not so good. So to understand which is which, you need to have raters. Raters are people who review all the transcripts and then they label them. But you need several raters. In psychology, usually you use like 3 raters, and then you measure how much they agree with the interreliability coefficient. And this is a lot of work, and you need really good raters to do the labeling through all the transcripts to find everything which is interpersonally good and interpersonally. All right? So this is why this data doesn't exist, and it would take a few years at least from now until we have that data. However, I would say in 5 to 10 years from now, this will be the next gold mine in AI. Second thing is, so if you don't have enough data, you could fine-tune it. I did fine-tuning back in 2021, it didn't change anything. But even if you did it, I heard from 2 people who had years of experience with fine-tuning. the common experience is that you lose something of the capability of the large language model, but you don't know where you lose it and you don't know what you lose. So you increase the uncertainty and actually decrease the variance. And the most important thing is actually, if you fine-tune, you actually always tend to overfit actually to the dialogues you have, which decreases your word understanding. Now third, the buzzword number 1 last year was RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. For those who don't know what it is, you try to improve an answer of a large language model by a database of documents which contain knowledge, which are transformed into a vector database. The vector database has the important advantage, if you have the question, the prompt, and then you can do a similarity search, and the similarity search with a vector database is very, very fast. So that's actually the mindset behind that. But what you retrieve is just the facts which are stored in the document database. Now this is really good if you have a customer service agent, because this customer service agent needs to know exactly the product qualities, the warranty, limitations, whatever, and has to retrieve exactly the same answer every time he or she is asked that question. And that's where you need RAG. But in general, it's not good because it doesn't enable you to understand the human better, but just to give a predefined answer. All right. Number 4, which is separate from the other 3, that's the number 1 buzzword of this year, agentic AI. And I have a split opinion. It actually works, but it works slowly. And I will show you that in the demo in the next slide. The problem is that in the real-time chat, you cannot afford any like 200, 300 milliseconds of more response latency if you can do it with a different solution. All right, so now I debunked 4 AI buzzwords, but what do I propose? I propose a very, very simple workflow. The first step is you just wait. I solved so many problems just by waiting. It was really great because I needed 1 year to learn programming with ChatGPT and Claude. And in that 1 year, so many problems vanished, which I had to face before. So that's the first step, okay? You just wait for the large language model progress. The second is, in many meetups, people ask me, so which model are you using? And that's the wrong question, because I'm using every model which is out there, and I know every model because I have tested every model. And because of the vast evolution and progress, you have to change it very, very quickly. That's why I needed LangChain. Okay, so multi-model testing is the second thing to find the best performer. Okay, and now, and that's the Occam's razor, and that's the counterintuitive answer, how you can replace all of these fancy methods, 1 to 4. You can do so much by just optimizing your prompt. And nobody really believed me, but I know that even from a super competent source. I know a guy, Tim Rockteschel. He was a computer science student. And when I was a PhD student in psychology, and he had a minor in psychology. So we talked about machine learning. And a few years later, he became professor of computer science. And then he was hired by DeepMind. And 2 years ago, I told him about the challenge I'm facing, and then we discussed how we can optimize. And he said also, people don't know how much they can leverage the capability of an LLM just by optimizing the prompt. And he was in a group who produced a tool called Prompt Breeder, and it was open source by DeepMind, and that was, and many other companies followed to give tools which optimize a prompt. So this is super counterintuitive because you actually don't need all these fancy methods. And that's really an important insight. All right, now this is actually the most complex level. You have to really think which problem you're facing. So I thought a really long time. And I think in this realm of optimizing a psychological chatbot, you have to optimize in several dimensions. So I think you optimize a 4-dimensional problem, which in the shortest version you can ask it as, find the best large language model which produces the best response quality dependent on the best prompt definition, considering the response latency. What do I mean by that? It takes really some time to understand this. Okay, you want to find the best large language model. Okay, you can do multi-model testing, benchmarking, and so on. And then you find which one produces the best response. Fine, okay, you test it more and more. And however, the response quality doesn't depend only on the large language model, but also on the prompt definition. But the prompt definition, you have to find some prompts work better with some models than with others. So it's actually interdependent. And it's not just, in one-way street. And then, let's say you found the perfect prompt. You will see it has grown and grown and grown. Then you have other effects, which are that, there are psychological effects which apply to the AI world as well. One is like the primacy and recency effect. So the large language model gives more attention to the beginning of the prompt and the end of the prompt, but not in the middle. But also, when you have enough prompt optimization, you will see that actually a huge prompt will also increase response latency. So to illustrate you that it's not such an easy problem, here are the response latency. I started in the research project 2021 with 2.9 seconds. But you have to always consider the standard deviation, about half a second. So it could go to 3.4 seconds, and then whenever it goes over 3 seconds, people perceive that they have to wait. This year, I optimized everything, and I came down to 1.1 seconds. But then in March, April, I made innovation, and it went up to 1.5 seconds. And just last week, I implemented another innovation, and it went up to 1.9 seconds. So if it's below 2 seconds, people still feel it's actually natural and relatively fast. But I was told at 1.1 seconds it's actually too fast, because you don't want to talk about your personal problems, and then you talk and finish, and then the AI says, it's too fast. Okay, but so 1.9 seconds is just in the realm of being natural. Okay, now how do you implement the optimization of this problem? You start actually with testing everything. And I was 13 years in consulting, and I remember that you just test everything, put all the results in a table, then compare everything, and then you make a decision, and then do that again, every month. Okay. Then I thought a little bit longer, and then I thought, oh, this is too much work. I'm going to implement an automated measurement of the response latencies. Now, TTFB is the time to first byte, and why didn't I write TTFT, which is the time to first token? Because it's not only that you measure the response latency of the LLM, that's a time to first token. You also need to measure the response latencies of the speech to text and then text to speech. So that's measured with TTFB. So these two are much, much more difficult because you have to get into the frameworks and then set a timer and then pass it through the whole chain and then reset it correctly. So it was not trivial. And I just did it last month. Okay, but the real breakthrough, and that's why it was worth coming here today, was I used a tool called Open Router, and I didn't have time to give a demo, but you go on the website and you have every large language model which is possibly out there. You select one, you can insert a prompt, and then you click Add Model, you select another one, let's say ChatGPT, and then you say Claude, and you say like DeepSeek, and you just apply the same prompt to everything. Then you start a textual chat, and then you see all the models in comparison how they respond. And this is great because you don't have to, do anything in the code and so on, but that's a multi-model testing. The multi-prompt testing is even better. You just click the same model and you insert a different prompt. And you still have only one chat and you see in comparison how it reacts to a different prompt in the same model. So you do multi-model and multi-prompt testing with that. And you save so much time. And one little more trick, I was like, in the beginning, very enthusiastic and poured my emotions out about a breakout I had 2 years ago. And then, like the 500th time, I was like, yes, I feel really depressed because I miss her so much. Just to get over to the point where I wanted to find the good answer. I was like, yeah, I was like, and I did other things, and this, you can put the whole chat history into the chat window, right? So just as a JSON, AI, human. So you don't need to talk through that until you get the point you want to test. Oh, it's like really hours of lifetime saved. All right. So these were the technical takeaways. And just to give you a quick demo, what you could do, this is actually from ancient times. This is from last year. On the left side, you see a very quick demo where I use agentic AI technology to make a call to a totally different question, which is the user, which is always me. I ask certainly, hey, how can you actually overcome depression? But what would a professional counselor say about that? Okay, and you will see that it takes ages until it responds, but it does respond in a very different way than it would usually talk. Okay, let's hear it.
I'm really interested in how to overcome a depression. So on that, can I get a counselor's opinion?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Just give me some seconds. Wonderful. Here's my professional opinion as counselor. Loneliness, loss, and depression are complex emotional experiences that can deeply impact one's well-being. While the path forward may not be clear, seeking professional support and finding healthy coping mechanisms can help him move towards healing and self-acceptance.
Okay, so I shortened it up, but you can see, okay, it's a totally different way of answering, like a casual chat. But it took like over 8 seconds. Okay, so that's how long it takes. All right, the next one is a more complex interaction. I found out that when people talk about problems, they can we close the door? When people talk about their personal problems and want to get help, they feel helped a lot when somebody takes them through the problem from different angles, okay? And they take these angles or perspectives and then change the perspectives and again. So I call this a conversational journey, and in the next demo you will see that the virtual friend will take the person, which is me, through the problem through different angles. Again, my partner. This is over 2 years ago, okay, so don't need condolences. Right.
Hello, Chaehan. I'm Casey. Welcome to Conversation 1. Hey there. How's it going?
Hi, to be honest, I'm not good because I just had a breakup with my girlfriend.
Oh no. I'm really sorry to hear that, Chaehan. Breakups can be so tough. I want to talk about how you're feeling.
Well, I feel really lost and I don't know how I should continue because we were together for over a year.
That makes total sense, Chaehan. Being together for that long creates a lot of shared memories. What specific feelings are coming up for you right now?
It feels like, somebody pulled a rug under me and I feel kind of disoriented.
Let me understand you're disoriented after breakup better. Can you tell me more about the symptoms you are experiencing?
First of all, in the morning I don't want to get up. And then every time I see some stuff that belongs to her, it creates some emotions.
I see, so it's like a wave of emotions hitting you. Could you share what situations or thoughts tend to amplify those feelings?
I think it's those moments when we had really a good time together, when we had good conversations. These are connected to these locations.
Those memories and places can really stir up emotions, especially after a breakup. I'm really sorry you're feeling this way. It sounds like the past is very present for you right now. Let's explore what's causing this disorientation for you. Do you have any idea what could be causing your symptoms of disoriented after breakup, or does anything else come to mind as the origin?
I think one thing is a shock, because just the week before we talked even about marriage. Talking about marriage meant like we were planning the future, and all of that is kind of now replaced by a void.
That void must feel really heavy, Chaehan. It's tough when something that once brought joy is now filled with emptiness. If I understand correctly, the potential origins of your disorientation stem from the disruption of good memories and a sense of a void left behind. Would you like to continue exploring these causes, or should we move on to finding some solutions?
Alright, so if you've listened closely, you might have found that, okay, the virtual friend goes first on the symptomatic level, then tries to go into the causal level, and then asks if I wanted to explore the solution space. So these are the different angles. Alright, I feel it's getting a little stuffy, the air, right? So bear with me, because I think until now we have covered the technical ways on how to implement such a chatbot, but now I think comes really the interesting, important stuff. And what I bring here is not the whole psychology, but only that what I think is lacking in the current discussion of AI in doing psychologically more relevant chatbots. And it goes down to really basic psychology, but the problem is why many people don't understand it is because most people think they already know psychology. And it's really hard to break these misconceptions. But I'm trying to make it understandable from the conceptual view and then show how you would implement it. Now, the problem is psychology is really a super strict science, and it's very disciplined, and many people lose their interest in it. So here's how I wished I could do my lectures in psychology. And it's a guessing game, okay? Just shout out what do you think is symbolized by the picture here.
Emotion.
Emotion, yeah.
Thinking.
Thinking, also called cognition in psychology. And this one? Behavior, yes, great. So, all of these components influence each other, and I call that the emotion, cognition, behavior triangle. I don't think that's a really established term in psychology, I just made it up. And I just want to show you that this is really essential to understand how psychology works. But my normal psychology lectures would look more like this, the same content. And I just added color. I didn't have color during my PhD. Okay, there's a slight difference. The slight difference is that the cognition overlaps slightly with emotion. And the reason is that emotion is defined as a subjective experience, also called a feeling, with a cognitive label. And cognitive label is produced by cognitive appraisal. It's also called cognitive interpretation. So what it means is just something which pops into your mind when you hear something. And to illustrate that, I show you here a very important principle. It shows actually how cognition shapes emotion. And this principle is used in one of the most effective approaches to therapy. It's called CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. And in cognitive behavioral therapy, you work like this. Let's say you have a relationship problem. Okay, your partner really annoys you. And then the counselor would work with you on what is the trigger which starts your annoyance. And the trigger is the stimulus. It could be something he or she says to you, something like, oh, there is a towel on the floor. Whatever. It's just one stimulus. It could be actually neutral by interpretation. And this trigger immediately leads to a cognitive label, something like attack. Okay, you think this is an attack, or a censored word of your choice, and this then leads to the emotion, which is like anger, and from that anger you get into a behavioral response. You know, if it's a fight and flight impulse, you go into counterattack. And that leads to the other person also counterattacking, so it escalates, and then you have this relationship problem. And what a counselor would do is, it will identify with you the trigger, and the secret to this whole principle is that it's very difficult to control your emotion. And the connection between the emotion and behavioral response is also very difficult. You have to suppress this with a lot of energy. However, relatively speaking, to change the cognitive interpretation is really simple. So what the therapist will work with is to change this cognitive label. Instead of thinking attack, it's like, oh, it's a new idea. Oh, it's a new inspiration. Oh, interesting. He communicates with me, or she. And you have to train that coupling between the trigger and the new cognitive label. It's like conditioning. And when you've done that, it leads to a different emotion and to a different behavioral response without any effort of you. Okay? So this is very known, very practiced, and very proven in hundreds of studies. So this is extremely basic principle, which is really powerful. So by the way, when I say basic, it doesn't mean, oh, it's easy, but it means it's very powerful actually, because it's so basic. All right, now, why I'm talking so much about this? Because this whole core principle of psychology is completely overlooked in, I would say, all of the chatbots in all of the companies who've been trying to work on that psychological chatbot, because the prompts look like this. They say something, it's examples. Always respond with empathy, acknowledging the human situation, remembering the last conversation, and so on and so on. Now, this is on which level? It's on the behavioral level. In a conversation, the behavior is what's being said. That's a behavior, okay? And I try to illustrate it a little bit more from a daily life perspective. Like, let's say you have a kid, and the kid comes to you and says, hey, I have a problem with mathematics, my grade is bad, and I want to improve my grade in the next mathematics exam. How can I do that? And then you respond like this on the behavioral level, and the instruction you give is, it's easy. Always respond with the mathematically correct answer. So that's a behavior instruction, it's correct. But the kid still doesn't know how to do it. Why? Because it has to make a guess on how to generate the mathematically correct answer. And the only way how to improve that is to train with the kid how examples of addition, of multiplication, and that's on the cognitive level. And the cognitive level will lead to the right responses. Without any behavior instructions, always respond with the right response. And that's the difficulty and problematic with these instructions, the behavior instructions. It's really actually intuitive, nevertheless, it's completely overlooked by, I would say, almost every chatbot in the world so far. All right, now, what do you have to do instead? Well, you have to look into the brain. And first of all, the basic is how the brain architectures the memory. So, WM stands for working memory. And it means it's a context where your thinking is currently running. And the brain perceives the environment by the sensory memory and then enters your thoughts, your current thoughts in the working memory. And when you put it into the working memory again, that's called rehearsal. And if you repeat the rehearsal, then this shifts into the long-term memory, and this process is called remembering. It's called learning. And when you retrieve it from the long-term memory, then it's called remembering. So what do we learn by that structure? 3 things. First of all, for effective listening, we need to learn from both, from long-term memory and from working memory. Second of all, you need to be aware that there are 2 different strategies to work with that and to implement it. Psychologically and technically, it's no difference. And to go even more into the detail, you have to differentiate the retrieval process and how it's used. So what do I mean by that? So we have the long-term memory and the working memory. And the long-term memory learns from past sessions. So it learns a historical context about who you are. And then the working memory is actually in the current session, it learns from it in real time patterns about you, what you say, how you feel, and so on. So what you are saying right now. And the difficulty is the combination of both, the integration of both for a more complete understanding. So I propose, based on the previous things I showed, a framework for deep listening. And it starts with the long-term memory. So, interestingly, what I show here is both technically and psychologically, there's no difference. You extract the key info, which is the psychologically relevant info from a conversation, and you store the patterns, and then you retrieve the patterns. That's what you do with the long-term memory. Then in the working memory, you try to make the best of the situational understanding. So what it means is you listen and you validate by paraphrasing it. So I hear you saying that. Also the core issue is, or I feel your pain, and so on. And you also reference the human by remembering what it said before. So far, if you've done that, that's already great. That's a lot more than most chatbots can do today. But I don't think that's enough to really improve the experience of a human that he or she really feels listened to. We need a little bit more. And I call this psychological awareness. So psychological awareness in simple words is to find out where the other person is right now. Does it mean he or she is in pain, or it's already over but thinks about it in a solution space, or just wants to make small talk, or wants to just talk about it but not get a solution, or wants to go through the problem in a really analytical manner. All of that are very, very different conversational situations which you have to detect as a human or as an AI. And this is what I think really improves the way an AI chatbot gives as a deep listening experience. Now, from long-term memory and psychological awareness, which of them do you think is more difficult to integrate into situational understanding? Please raise your hand if you think it's long-term memory. Please raise your hand if you think it's psychological awareness. Okay, it's wrong. It's really difficult. I mean, it's really difficult to get it into situational understanding. The psychological awareness is complex, but it's not so difficult. Well,
why?
I will answer that in a few more slides. So now you got the psychological basics, as it is necessary to understand how to improve current chatbots of today. Now, this is the most important part, and I'm sorry that everybody's tired now, but this is the most exciting part. If you miss that, you're missing the whole dessert. Okay, so how can you connect the psychology and technology? Here's where I lose most engineers. Why? Because now it gets fuzzy, right? So I'm going to show you what I mean with fuzzy. The situational understanding was put into working memory, not long-term memory. Now I combine that. Okay, the psychological awareness and the working memory were separate. Now I also combine it. So why? Because the psychology of during a listening process is also messy. It overlaps, it integrates, it's very complex. That's why. And I just gave you the separation of two components. In reality, they are also influencing each other. I just try to make it a little more simple for your understanding. Okay. So here's the one thing which I learned. The extraction of the psychological information is easy. But it's really difficult to find the right memory item to the exact current situation and then put it into the response. If you don't believe me, try it. Good luck. The working memory and the psychological awareness. If you do it on a broad level, like say, do you want to do small talk or do you want to elaborate a problem? Okay, it's easy. But I try to really improve the status quo of what's being possible. And here I found one problem which is not being solved, and that is understanding a conversation on a meta level. A meta level means what is said between the lines. What is the tone? What's the vibes? How is the dynamic? How does the conversation evolve? Okay, and it's really difficult to analyze it, even for a person, even for a psychological counselor, even so. You need training for this. But then, even if you have done that, to translate it into something actionable, so you change the response, you improve it, that's even more difficult. And I've detected the problem, and I say it's very difficult, but I think that will improve really the psychological understanding in the future. And this is why I say this is an upcoming missing link. You know this, and this is already great if you can do that. But this last thing, understanding the meta level, the subtext, the tone, this is the secret sauce, and I think it will improve the situational understanding and because it will leverage the psychological awareness. And so far, I've cracked the challenge how to implement it technically, but it doesn't work yet psychologically. And realistically, well, I did that cracking technically just last week. Okay, 2.5 weeks ago I had a knee operation. I had to sit at home all day, and I said, I'm getting crazy up if I don't solve a huge challenge. And so I cracked that. But I need realistically a year to make it really work psychologically. That's why you have to invite me again next year. Thank you. All right. Now, we are at the end of my talk. And I want to leave you, if I've changed your life with my talk, now I say, okay, that's it. I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to change my career. And tomorrow on, I'm going to start a psychology chatbot. What is the recipe of what you have to do? And I'm going to show you this recipe now. So you start with finding the right problem. So I talked about optimization, and I gave you a hint. You have to manage trade-offs, like the trade-off between prompt complexity and response latency. And in reality, it's a little bit more complex than just that. Once you found what you have to optimize, you then work on the prompt design. And the biggest tip I gave you today is replace the behavioral instruction by cognitive instructions. And that requires that you really have to acquire domain expertise first. How do I know this? Why am I so sure about this? Is because when I demoed my chatbot this year to a professor of clinical psychology from London, who is also a specialist in relationships and sexual problems, she said that my chatbot works very, very similar to hers, and she developed hers with her husband, who is a machine learning engineer, by teaching it how she thinks as a counselor during the conversation. So she also had this trick of cognitive instructions. So her name is Dr. Laura Bowles from University of Roehampton in London, and she's very competent. So next thing is you have to work on the memory architecture. So we found that the brain is structured in long-term memory and working memory, and you give two very different challenges. First of all, from the long-term memory, you have to find a way how to inform the situation understanding, which is difficult. If you have already solved it, I can tell you you only solved it because your prompt is very small and very easy. But if you have a huge prompt with cognitive instructions, it's going to be more and more difficult. And then lastly, in the working memory, you try to manage what is psychological awareness. And first you work on the detection of where the user is currently, which conversation mode, so you can flexibly switch to conversation mode. But then the next level next year will be on how you can leverage the understanding of the subtext of the conversation. And as I said before, actually informing these two components each other is the real challenge. All right, so now I talked a lot in nice abstracted slides, but now I think you want to hear how it really performs. So I give a very short demo. And this is not cherry-picked. I actually had so many conversations, but I didn't record them. So yesterday I did things, but my Wi-Fi is so bad, so it's really slow. But you will see two different situations. The first one is very short. I explain my psychological situation, but I go for everywhere, here and there, and this is good, this is bad, oh, terrible. And then it reflects back, and by reflecting back, it shows that it understood me, but it brings it in a more structured context, by that validating my psychological understanding. Okay, let's hear it.
Yes, I was actually making good progress with my new physiotherapy, but the problem is I've been staying at home every day for over 2.5 weeks now, so I'm getting a little bit stressed.
Okay, you couldn't hear it, so I'm going to say it. So I said, okay, I stayed at home every day for 2.5 weeks after my knee operation, but I made good progress, and but I feel bad. Okay, so and then.
Yes, I was actually
making progress with knee physiotherapy.
Staying at home every day.
I had to stay at home every day.
So I'm getting a little depressed.
I'm depressed.
I hear the mix of progress with your knee, but feeling a bit down from staying home so long. What parts feel the hardest about being stuck inside, Jim?
Okay, so it connects it then with a question like, and it says like, what's the hardest of being stuck? Okay, so it shows me that it understands my situation, that I feel like contrived and so on. Okay, but it is very, I think it was a very elegant move to do this question and saying being stuck in it. Anyways, the next one is that I'm bringing again my 600th time heartbreak breakup. But no, actually I didn't. I talk about a different problem and I say, but you know, I couldn't make any progress in my chatbot because of my other problem. And I didn't say which other problem I had, but the other problem is actually from the long-term memory. And then you see how it uses this long-term memory to make the response. And after that, and this is actually the first time I feel something has changed in my chatbot. It's like a kid you've been telling, do this, do this, do this, and finally it does it. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Anyway, it actually doesn't give a solution, or doesn't say that's not good, but it nudges me. And then it doesn't just take my response, but it tries to nudge me again. And this is actually really good. The only bad thing is response latency, but that's my Wi-Fi. But hear that.
And I'm Casey. Welcome to conversation number 29. It's been about a week since we talked, Chaehan. You were making good progress with your knee and preparing for your AI talk while feeling a bit sad about losing your Spanish practice. How are things feeling for you now with all those plans and projects? Anything new or exciting happening recently?
Yes, my knee physiotherapy is really going well, but unfortunately I couldn't make so much progress in my AI chatbot because of my other problem.
I hear the frustration about your chatbot progress being slowed by other problems, Chaehan. I imagine your grief from the breakup and difficulties meeting new women are weighing on you, especially when you said it blocks your chatbot work. My guess is this emotional weight is the biggest obstacle right now. Does that sound right to you?
Well, it could be true because I was staying at home to be cautious with my knee all day, all night, so it could be that I started missing my ex-girlfriend again.
I hear the sadness sneaking in when you're home resting your knee a lot, Chaehan. Missing your ex again must be hard and probably makes focusing on your chatbot tougher. How do you usually cope with those feelings when they come up like this?
Well, I usually plunge into work, and that really makes me forget it.
So I plunge into work.
I get that diving into work helps you escape those tough feelings, Chaehan. Does that strategy help enough? Or do you feel it sometimes leaves things unresolved?
Well, of course it doesn't really solve things, but you know, it makes me forget things. And maybe it's better than alcohol.
I hear that forgetting through work feels like a safer choice for now, Chaehan. Sometimes distraction is the best we can do. Do you ever think about trying other ways to feel better? Or does work feel like your main lifeline?
I don't know. What should I do? Do you have any suggestions?
hear you're feeling unsure, Chaehan, and it's okay to seek suggestion. Maybe try small moments of self-care apart from work, like short walks or talking to friends to help ease grief alongside focusing on your chatbot. What do you think about giving that a shot?
Yeah, so you see that it tries to nudge me into thinking, is diving into work and just being distracted by that the really best solution. And then in the last conversation turn, it also brought in, okay, and if you take a walk, it might also help for your grief and working on your chatbot. So it brought in again the long-term memory into that last suggestion again. So okay, so that's where I felt like, oh, good kid, I'm proud. Okay, finally. All right, so we are at the end of my talk, and I just have a request. So if you found this interesting and you want to kind of be part of the journey, I have a call for people who can do sales. I'm not a good salesperson. I can really explain psychological concepts really well, but I'm not a salesperson, and I need people who have a proven ability to convince people by listening well, and who are mission-oriented. I rejected a guy from MIT 2 years ago who wanted to work for me for free, but he wanted to do a virtual girlfriend to make money, and I rejected him. It's not enough for me. And I can't tell you how bored I am intellectually and privately by this challenge. Anyway, next year I'm going to work with universities. I need to create a virtual machine for each of them separately, and I want to automate the process. So if you're in cloud automation, you can please contact me as well. And most importantly, that's what I really care about, is you don't need to be a psychologist, but if you would be open enough to talk about any kind of personal problem to the chatbot for longer than 3 minutes, that would help me a lot. I don't have enough data, and you have to know I don't analyze your transcripts verbatim. I don't look at them. I use AI to analyze it. And if you Google me, you can find out never in any publication ever whatsoever has there been any private data. I cannot do that because I'm a researcher at core. So if you trust me in that, you can just try to test it. And if you only want to talk in Spanish, maybe that's my plan for next year. Please give me your email and say Spanish only. Then I might contact you next year. So maybe you can write your email address here. Okay, so that would be almost it. So I told you this is like the QR code inflation slide. This is what you should scan, and while I'm going to the bathroom, post your questions and upvote those you're interested in. Okay, this is for you, so I will answer any question which is here in the room the most interested, or online. And contact me, especially if you want to do sales in LinkedIn, or if you're just interested in testing. If you want to test it, this is how you get to the form of my website. It's a very short formula, first name, last name, email address, and you can start testing it. But if you want to be a dedicated tester, ideally I have a guy in Melbourne who does therapy, and he's very, very good in giving feedback. And so if you want that, you get a special link and you get a VIP user. So you get a little bit more comfort. I talked about an important psychological topic, which is why we are wrong when we think we are right. That's my TED Talk. And if you want to read any of my articles, I published in academics. I published actually in design, in AI, in psychology. And you can go onto my ResearchGate page, and you click on an article you want, and then I can share it with you. And that way, I'm allowed to give it to you legally, Otherwise, you have to pay $30. So, okay. So, yeah. That's it for the moment. I go quickly to the bathroom. Please post your questions. And until here, thank you very much for your attention. I don't know. That's good before I go to the bathroom.
Just so you're wondering, if you use Google Lens, it'll let you scan all the QR codes at once and just like click on the one you want. It's a little easier when there's a bunch of QR codes. But yeah, get your questions in. How are the subtitles? I was reading them some. They seemed 90% somewhere in there. There were some bad mistakes for sure, but I think for the most part it seemed pretty good. If anything, it moved too fast, I think. It's a hard balance to strike.
I can land it on the Slido website. Let's see. I guess everybody took the photo. Now let's go on the Slido. No internet. Doesn't find the right file. Yes, it does. Okay, now I need to mirror it to the screen. How would you do that? Maybe just mirror. Okay. Mirror entire screen. Can you connect it here?
but it doesn't show.
Maybe try the mirror again.
Okay. Mirror, ask it to show. So this is Samsung. Ah.
That kind of works if you move your window up there, we can see it. If mirroring is too much of a hassle.
Yeah, but the problem is I cannot move it.
I saw a window move onto that screen when you were dragging earlier.
Can you come here maybe?
Any Mac people here?
I don't know Macs that well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just reset and then. Okay, now you have to.
No, it looks like.
Look, here's the same mirror entire screen, right? No, it's not connected yet, but. Mirror entire screen.
Yeah, it's not.
So now, okay, look. Now, mirror entire screen. And this one.
So I don't necessarily. Can I drag
Yeah,
for just a few seconds?
Looks like there's lots of great questions.
Yeah. So I'm not
yes.
that's not mirror. I'm not solving the problem. I'm just finding a workaround.
No, you
Right.
solved it. That's okay. Great. Thank you so much. Give applause. Try to be a little bit bigger. Can you read it?
Command plus.
Command
plus.
Yeah, I did.
It's a bit small for me.
Okay, I try another command plus.
Yeah, that's better.
It's better.
Yeah.
All right. This is as good as it gets. Okay. So thanks for your questions first. Should I connect now? It's for the YouTube, maybe.
No, the YouTube can hear you fine either way.
Okay. And I don't need that.
If I don't know how well people can hear you. That's just the area mic.
Okay.
There's people in the other room too. So yeah, turn it on. It's just the switch on top
This is
there.
on.
I got it. Yep, you got it.
Hello?
No. There we go.
Hello? Okay, all right. So, first question. How did you implement long-term working memory management under the hood? Do you use existing frameworks for this or make your own solution? I can tell you that and then I have to shoot you. This is where, when I got such a question from a student, I said, some homework is left for you to do. I'm sorry. I gave you one tip, which is you actually can use agentic AI to do that, and it works. But you will also have to see that it will be too slow for things. For long term, I can give you the secret, which is basically you just, after the conversation, you extract the conversation history, and then you have a
prompt which extracts the psychologically relevant information. Of course, you have to know what is psychologically relevant and how you retrieve it, but that's the cognition part of it, and you have to have domain expertise for that. Okay, for the working memory, this is so sensitive because it is easy in the beginning, and then later it becomes really difficult where how you integrate into the working memory things from long-term memory and things from the current conversation, and now with the psychological awareness also from the subtext, that I can't tell you this. I told you a lot today, but I can't tell you that. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I can't tell you more. Yes?
Can I ask you just a very newbie question? So when you like extract things from long-term and also like working memory, do you eventually like combine them into like the same sort of prompt that you feed into an LLM, or am I just thinking about something way off?
No, again, as I said, you have to separate. You have to separate the retrieval and the usage. So when I say long-term memory, you retrieve the psychologically relevant information after the conversation has ended. So that's a separate process. And that process is easy if you get the session history and then you work on the session history. It's completely different from how it's going to be used. Okay, so that's as much as I can reveal. But you can keep on probing me. But yeah.
I just wanted to suggest there is a framework called AI, and it's
what's it called?
Letta.ai.
Letta.
Letta. LETTA.ai. It's a framework or a platform for managing.
LETTA.ai.
Yeah, for managing long-term, short-term memory. So there are like a concept of different blocks of memory. So it's a very popular problem for agents, and it can be useful. So if someone has a problem with this, you can check this framework.
Okay. Before you start using such a framework, you have to understand how they really work under the hood, because I'm doing it myself. I'm programming everything myself because I want to have full control on how it works. Because if there are processors who simulate something they think is working memory, then you really need to understand how it works under the hood. You know, and if you don't understand it, then there are some processes which don't work as you want, and then it actually defeats the purpose. All right, but thanks for the tip. Second question, how do you account for the feelings that a listener has and how this informs a conversation, since the virtual friend doesn't have its own feelings and memories? A very good question, and the point is that I have to answer this question in several dimensions. First of all, what happens in the conversation is on the behavioral level. You decipher this behavioral level, what is being said, and on a cognitive level, because that's how the LLM works. Now, on the cognitive level, you can give it instructions how to analyze not only the feelings, but the whole emotion state. But I think it's overrated to focus on the feelings, because there's so much more complexity. The feelings only are important as long as they shape the subjective experience of a situation. And it's much more needed to understand this situation, like the context. And that's why you need to have a much more thorough analysis than just the feelings. So there is a whole huge cognitive instruction set to understand the whole psychological situation of the person, and how it informs. That's what I try to say in the slides through working memory and psychological awareness, how it informs the situation understanding. You need to integrate from long-term memory and from the current situation the understanding. How you integrate it, Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that as well. First of all, it would take hours, not minutes, to answer that. Okay, it's just too complex. And the second thing is, that's also my trade secret, how you integrate it. How you integrate it is always the most difficult problem. And again, it's not really a technical challenge. You have to first understand how it would really work in the brain. Yeah, I'm sorry, I cannot, I can only give half answers, but it's like this talk is like the most I've ever given out as trade secrets I have, okay? But I need to set a certain boundary, I'm sorry. Okay.
Wait, we've only got a couple minutes left.
Okay,
so.
okay.
I'll ask you after.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, you can probe me. Okay, so how does your AI prevent people to harm someone or harm him or herself? Like quit my job, meet someone I found on my face a situation. Yeah, so that is a problem. 2 years ago was a really big problem. I really thought, oh, it's super difficult. And then 1 year later it was solved because all the large language models had safeguards implemented, because all the big companies have so much more at stake than me, a single person startup. They had literally millions, if not billions, at stake to prevent, if anybody has a psychological problem, that you immediately defer it to see a counselor, a professional counselor for that. Okay, so that was a relatively easy question. I'm about to release an MVP which includes an AI chatbot. Which frameworks, tips do you have to use as a methodology for early users to iterate on the feedback? Okay, so given that I gave you my best tools already for users to iterate on the feedback, first of all, do this multi-model, multi-prompt testing with OpenRouter. Okay, it saves you hundreds of hours, hundreds. Then with users, I found out it's not so much the quantity but the quality of users. And so I asked all my friends, and then it turned out that there was one woman I know from many years, and she trusts me that I can read her transcripts, but I didn't need to read her transcripts because she could remember what she said, what the AI response was, what she expected would have been better, and when the AI did it better, and when it did not do it as good. And it was amazing. I'm still working with her, and yeah, so I'm hoping one of you in the audience is such a person who can do that, and the guy in Melbourne as well. So it's so quality over quantity and user testing, I would say. Okay, happiness psychology suggests social connection and sense of community are key factors for happiness. Do you think a virtual companion may hinder this? Okay, so there's a subtext on this. The first thing is, well, this is a trivial insight from happiness research that from the human needs, the need for affiliation is one of the most basic and most helpful and can overcompensate other needs which are not met. But the point is, I don't see it completely black and white. I think in the future we will live in a world where people have friends, but when they are not available, or when you have an argument, or other reasons you cannot talk to your friends, people will also have an AI friend. And there will be a dual relationship with them, and there will be a new type of this relationship. Some of them will become dependent, some of them not, and some of them use them more as complementary than competitive companion. So I think we will have all kinds of these relationships in the future. But yeah, it's a good question. I'm very excited in the future how it will turn out. Are you measuring bias in responses in conversations, like silly examples such as friends to women and sports to men? No, I don't. And that's actually, the whole point is to make a differentiated response to everybody's situation, which is always different, and use long-term memory, working memory to customize it. How are you testing the psychological efficiency of the virtual companion? Very good question. I have been torn about that, and I have only had these really good user testing, of people who are very linguistically and psychologically sensitive to changes. And I also had user feedback integrated, but it wasn't really used by users so much. So in the future, when it becomes more professional, I will also insert surveys in that and to have that better.
I think we're gonna have to cut it short after this one.
Okay. So, these are all 222s.
Well, there'll be more time. I don't know
how
if
many
you're gonna join us.
real currently testing? Okay, I'll just go for the next one. How much do you think you've spent on development costs? What was the most expensive? Anything you do to cut costs? My biggest cost is my opportunity cost. Before I became professor, I had a consulting job and could charge over $1,000 a day, sometimes $2,000 a day, and I could return after my professor job to this consulting work, and this is what I chose not to do. So this is my contribution actually to make maybe better situation for people who cannot afford this this kind of mental help. So, however, I cut down on the cost so much that I have surely below $100 per month running time. So the biggest cost I have is actually my opportunity cost and my living cost. That's it.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut it short. Are you gonna join us at the other location for a little bit, or it's just around the block?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So if you would like to test it, please leave me your email address. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Just do one more picture with you. Can you pretend that you had fun in this talk? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Cheers. One more. Okay.
No, we have to pretend that we're depressed and we need the virtual friend.
Okay, pretend that to me too. Cheers. Oh, say AI. Yeah, everybody smiles now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, like I said, we're going to go over to Yaku Manka, which is just around the corner. You'll find the address in the WhatsApp group. We have these pieces of paper around. There's also one here if you want to join the WhatsApp group. And you can post further questions as well in that group to Dr. So.
So, do you have a hot pen? Okay, here.
Feel free to gather like a virtual form.
Okay.
I know a lot of people
language. Thank you. So informative. I'm sorry. There's so much It was great. Try to. All right.
Let's go. Sorry, I gotta close up stuff here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Right after close down.
Okay.